It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the 5 films of October 12th, 2007. We have Tyler Perry's latest movie among those movies. We also have Joaquin Phoenix and Mark Wahlberg in an action film. Not even an action film, more of a drama, but we have Cate Blanchett in a sequel that nobody was really asking for, but screw it, they made it anyway. And we have Ryan Gosling in a new movie, the second film from director Craig Gillespie in the last month, and Jude Law stars in another Michael Caine remake, this time with Michael Caine involved in it. But, a Michael Caine original, I should say. But, this is, we'll get to those eventually. But let's start off, of course, with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is, of course, Tyler Perry's latest film, Why Did I Get Married? This is Why Did I Get Married, a dramedy about these four couples who are having the difficulties of maintaining a social relationship in modern times. You see the cast there, and you have all these different couples. One of them is argues a lot because the wife in that couple, Diane, refuses to stop working. She takes calls on her phone instead of talking with her husband, Terry. The second couple consists of hair salon owner Angela and former football player Marcus. Angela constantly argues with Marcus and anyone who interrupts them. The third couple is a housewife named Sheila and an entrepreneur named Mike, and Sheila has to get off the plane taking them to this place because of her weight and the requirement to purchase 2 seats, with Mike continuously flirting on the flight with her single friend Trina. And then the fourth couple consists of a psychologist and her architect husband Gavin. And just those things alone are just things where you look at them and they're just like, okay, clearly one of you couples should not be together. And I'm talking about the third couple there, because of course Sheila's played by Jill Scott, who, she's obviously more obese than the other ones. But I mean, I feel like the movie's kind of missing the mark on that one there. They're just making it seem like, no, these couples deserve to be together. But that couple there, like, Jill Scott clearly deserves to find somebody else that doesn't treat her as badly as this movie does, and especially her husband in this. But besides that, though, this is pretty much standard stuff that you've seen in many of these melodramas, because this is really a melodrama. But believe it or not, it is actually one of the better Tyler Perry movies that I've seen. It's one of those ones where it's just like, yeah, we've seen this stuff done before so many times before, but I think what helps it is because the cast is working off each other so well. I mean, Janet Jackson, Jill Scott, Sharon Leal, Tasha Smith, Michael Jai White, Keisha Sharp is also in the movie too. A lot of people I've really liked over the years. This is the first Tyler Perry movie that I've seen that I've actually really kind of enjoyed all the way through. Like, I was one of those ones where it's just kind of like, I really wasn't expecting a whole lot from it, but I think what is holding it together are the performances and the dilemmas of these couples altogether. I think they are very good at handling the pressures of being married in a relationship, especially in this type of a climate. And yeah, it really does feel like a film that is trying its best to try to, delve into the problems of marriage in general, and how these couples clearly are not meant to be together, and the ones that are trying to keep it together, have kind of fallen out of love a little bit here. And I think they do a very good job of handling that all across the board in this movie. It's not a great movie by any means necessary, but it is definitely a sign that, Tyler Perry can make good movies, even ones that are not really made for somebody like in my demographic, like someone like me. I mean, I wouldn't go, back then I didn't really go to see these movies because they really weren't made for me, honestly. But this is the first one where I looked at it and I went like, I mean, the guy doesn't make a whole lot of really good movies that would appeal to me, but this movie kind of makes me want to check out more of his work overall, because sometimes he makes a good film here and there. But as far as this one goes, I kind of enjoyed it. Not a great movie, not a bad movie either, but pretty good all across the board. So take that for what you will. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that's Joaquin Phoenix and Mark Wahlberg starring in We Own the Night. Oh yeah, Eva Mendes is in this movie too, and I say that because if you don't know Eva Mendes is in this movie, you will know almost immediately that she's in this movie, because yeah, this is one of those movies where she gets hella naked right at the beginning of the movie. Like, they don't even wait 5 minutes for the movie to start. Like, it literally starts off with Joaquin Phoenix making out with Eva Mendes, and she's like, you could see her cleavage, her boobs and all that, and it's just like, yeah. For someone like me back then, it's just like, okay, yeah, I gotta say, it's the instant win on there right from the get-go. But as far as the film itself goes, now it's been 20 years, almost 20 years since I've seen this film. It takes place in Brooklyn, 1988, where crime is rife, especially with drugs and drug violence. A Russian thug is building his heroin trade while everyone laughs at the cops. Brothers have chosen different paths. Joe has followed in his father's footsteps, entering into New York's finest. Joe's played by Mark Wahlberg. The father is played by Robert Duvall. He's a rising star. But Bobby, who uses his mother's maiden name, manages a club. He's played by Joaquin Phoenix. He is on the rise with a new girlfriend, the aforementioned Mendez, and a green light to develop a Manhattan club. Joe and Bert ask him to help with intelligence gathering. He declines. Then Joe raids Bobby's club to arrest the Russian. From there, things spiral out of control. The Russian pits on a hit on Joe, personal losses mount, and Bobby's loyalty face the test. And yeah, it's a pretty standard cop drama overall, and it works mostly because of the performances in here. I think the four main people involved here, Phoenix, Wahlberg, Mendez, Duvall, they all play their parts very well here. You do get invested in their storylines and what they're trying to accomplish here, and it is a really good, impressively made film. It's a film that really does work. This director, James Gray, has made a couple of movies that have been mostly missed and hit. Like every once in a while, he'll have a really good movie like this, or Ad Astra, or The Yards. But other than that, though, most of his films he made have mostly been misses all across the board. I mean, this film wasn't a big hit when it came out. It was a mixed opinion by most critics. And it didn't make a whole lot of business at the box office overall. It did double its money back, but most people thought maybe it was still a little underwhelming considering the talent that was involved in it. But, yeah, overall, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was very entertaining. I thought it was a really good cop drama. Very different compared to stuff like The Departed or something like End of Watch or many of these other movies that try to do this and try to have something a little bit different that stands them out the most. This one doesn't quite stand out as much as the other movies I've mentioned, but I still liked it overall. I thought it was a very entertaining film. It works because the performances are very good here. The grittiness of the film is right there. And yeah, it's a very engaging thriller all across the board. It's a very well-made film, and one I highly recommend checking out. If you want to, it also gives you a chance to see Mark Wahlberg with more of a dramatic edge to him, because he was slowly but surely starting to build his craft as a dramatic actor with The Departed the year before, and then Invincible, and then now this movie. A really good film. I do recommend checking it out. We Own the Night. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie. A sequel that you could say that nobody was really asking for, except someone at Universal said, you know what we could use a sequel to? Elizabeth. Let's make Elizabeth the Golden Age. Yeah, unlike The Godfather Part 2, which of course went on to become the only sequel to ever win Best Picture at the Oscars, this is an Oscar-nominated film that definitely did not deserve to win to be made onto altogether. But what am I even trying to say here? But Elizabeth the Golden Age. Kate Blanchett is back in the role of Elizabeth I in a loose but fact-based portrayal of events during the latter part of the reign of Elizabeth I, forming a sequel to this director's Sherman Kapoor's other film, and it also has Geoffrey Rush reprising his role from the first movie, as well as Clive Owen, Abbie Cornish, Samantha Morton, and again, it's just a sequel that really is completely unnecessary, and maybe if there was a reason to make the film, and if they wanted to continue the story forward and actually make something incredible with it, I probably would have given this a free pass, but honestly, it's just another sequel, one of those unnecessary sequels too, because nobody was asking for a sequel to Elizabeth at all. I mean, the first Elizabeth was a good movie, but it really didn't need a sequel, and it's hard to really defend this movie when you have shots that are very similar to something like, Pirates of the Caribbean, like with the ships and all that. And it's just like, I feel like they were trying to create a franchise out of this, which was completely unnecessary, honestly. And most people didn't really go see it. It was a film that kind of came and went. It wasn't a big hit at the box office, but it did get a couple of Oscar nominations. Blanchett got nominated for this again, which I don't know why she did, because it really felt unnecessary, especially considering that she was in a much better movie that did get her an Oscar nomination, I'm Not There, which we'll get to that one eventually. Not compared to the I'm Not There, that I'm Still There. That's what I'm thinking. I'm Still There from this year's Oscar nominations in 2025. I'm thinking of something else altogether, but there is a movie coming up pretty soon with Blanchett, and it's called I'm Not There, which is about Bob Dylan. But like I said, we'll get to that one eventually. And Incidentally, there's another Bob Dylan movie that came out not too long ago, A Complete Unknown, which did get several Oscar nominations in 2025. But besides all that, going back to Elizabeth the Golden Age, I guess it's not a bad movie per se, but it doesn't add anything to the story. It doesn't add anything to the reason for it to exist. I mean, yeah, you got these actors back in here, and Kate Blanchett usually will never turn down a bad performance in this movie. But at the same time, it's just like, why make this sequel? Like, who was demanding an Elizabeth sequel? Like, I just don't get it. I mean, I don't think there was a demand for it, honestly. And yeah, like I said, this thing kind of came and went because nobody really gave a crap about this. And it just felt like they just had to do it because, because the first film had some kind of, to them, I guess somebody in the somebody at Working Title Films who co-produced this really liked this idea of doing an Elizabeth sequel, and let's just do this. Like, this isn't like Mr. Bean's Holiday, where you wait almost a decade to do another Mr. Bean movie, and that one actually turns out to be pretty good. This is an unnecessary sequel that has no reason to exist whatsoever. I can't remember one good thing about this movie per se, so yeah, you can skip Elizabeth the Golden Age, but let's move on to some good. Let's go back and move on to some good movies. Let's talk about our next film, which is Ryan Gosling in the comedy Lars and the Real Girl. Back then, that would be considered really weird, but you know what? In the year 2025, when you see so many couples and so many relationships go down the tubes, especially after COVID, yeah, that does not look as bad as that does not look as weird as it does nowadays. Nowadays, that's kind of normal considering most relationships. But anyway, this is Lars and the Real Girl with Ryan Gosling starring as the title character, who's a kind-hearted but socially awkward young man who develops a romantic yet non-sexual relationship with an anatomically correct sex doll, a real doll named Bianca. And this is a film that could have easily just been a one-note movie. This could have been a one-joke premise. I mean, it really had the possibility of doing everything to become that, but it doesn't go down those levels, and it actually makes kind of a heartfelt romantic comedy with it. I mean, you understand why Ryan Gosling has an affection for this person, especially considering that he's very kind-hearted. He's socially awkward. He doesn't know how to talk to girls. I mean, it's a very intriguing character, and it really is played out very well by Gosling. And you do buy into his relationship with this doll, even though the doll never says anything. Like, you could buy them as a couple and how much he really cares about this thing that doesn't have anything like any way to come to life. Like, it also helps that you got a really good cast all across the board here to help make it work. Patricia Clarkson, Emily Mortimer, Paul Schneider, Kelly Garner, and a director like Craig Gillespie, who does a whole lot better job with this movie than he did with Mr. Woodcock. Like, you could tell his heart was definitely more into this project than that film was. And like I said, it's a film that really is something that could take something so weird and yet make something so uniquely charming about it. And 2007 was definitely a weird year for that, because we'll later have a movie where a movie centering around teen pregnancy, and they make it a heartfelt comedy out of it with Juno. But we're still a couple weeks away from that. But this movie actually works really well. I think it's a film that actually has gotten better over time. I think more people can relate to it nowadays. It's a really impressively done film. It's a very funny film. It's a very heartfelt film. Ryan Gosling continues to show his elevation as an actor. You know, this isn't just some guy who was like a teen heartthrob in The Notebook and just kind of went away. He's taking more chances with these roles that he's in, and he was knocking them out of the park with nearly every single one. And of course, now looking at him nowadays, he's really become a hot commodity star, and it's kind of hard. It's not hard to see why. But yeah, Lars and the Real Girl. Definitely one you should definitely check out. Easily the best film of the week. Lars and the Real Girl. Can't recommend it enough. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last film we have here, and that's Jude Law and Michael Caine starring in the remake, Sleuth. Oh, just bang already. Wait a minute, that sounds really weird. I mean, basically, Michael Caine is playing the older version of his younger self in here, because he's playing in the same movie where he played the younger character in this movie. I mean, I guess you could kind of make it work. What did Robot Chicken say about what about making out with yourself? It's not gay, it's masturbation. And I don't even know where that came from. But anyway, this is Sleuth. This is a remake of the 1972 feature film, which was previously adapted from a play by Anthony Stafford. And you have Michael Caine and Jude Law starring in this role. We have two extremely clever British men in a game of trickery and deceit. Andrew White, played by Michael Caine in this version, even though in the original film it was Laurence Olivier, an aging famous author who lives alone in a high-tech mansion after his wife Maggie has left him for a younger man. And Milo Tyndall, played by Jude Law, an aspiring actor equipped with charm and wit, who determines both qualities once again when Wyke invites Tyndall to his mansion. These are weird names, by the way. Wyke, Tyndall. When Wyke invites Tyndall to his mansion, Tyndall seems to convince the former into letting his wife go back by signing the divorce papers. However, Wyke seems far more interested in playing mind games with his wife's new lover, and lures him into a series of actions he thoroughly plans in seeking revenge on his unfaithful spouse. This is written by Harold Pinter, who's been a very prolific writer, but mostly this is known for being directed by Kenneth Branagh. And Kenneth Branagh usually knocks it out of the park. This one, unfortunately, didn't get the proper praise it deserved because, this wasn't, like I said, this wasn't the first time that a Michael Caine movie was being remade with Jude Law in it. We got Alfie a couple years ago, which I thought was a very underrated film, by the way. And this film in particular, I actually really do like this more than most people would give it credit for. I think it works because Caine and Law just work off each other so well here in this game of cat and mouse. I mean, you really have to stand up really well against a guy like Michael Caine. And Jude Law does a very good job of sticking right next to him in this movie. And it is a very well done film with a great script by Harold Pinter, who's making it his own unique take from it. It doesn't feel like it's the retread of the first film all over again. It feels like they are trying to do things that are very different and very unique, and they have really good actors involved in here to make that work. It's really just the two of them in this movie. And some people may say that, it's kind of set like a stage play in general, and yeah, it kind of is, but I think that's kind of the point overall. I think I like it because it is just these two guys going at each other in this film and playing this game of cat and mouse, and I think it works very well to the film's advantage. I think it's a very engaging film that works because the two actors are so in on this concept. And it really does work very well. I think it's a really good film. I think it's definitely one of Branagh's more underrated movies in general. It's a really good movie, and one I do highly recommend checking out. If you want to see some good, underrated Branagh work with both Michael Caine and Jude Law really going at it and really putting some good stuff together, this is a film that definitely works on that front. I recommend it. I think it's a very solid film, definitely a very underrated film. And yeah, it's a very good film. It's a good modernized version of the original Sleuth without feeling like it's a retread of that movie. And I think it works because the two actors are so game for this movie, and they do a very good job at it. So, I highly recommend checking it out. Sleuth, definitely a film worth it. And so, with all of that said, we're going to wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, where we'll move on to October 19th next time around with 7 movies. Most notably, we have the graphic novel becoming a movie, 30 Days of Night, a spoof comedy, this time not done by Freeberg and Seltzer, and probably a little underrated than most people would give it credit for. The Comebacks. The Nightmare Before Christmas gets another big 3D re-release. We have Ben Affleck making his directorial debut with Gone Baby Gone. We have another Afghanistan war film with Rendition. We have Things We Lost in the Fire. So that's 6 movies. And there's one other one I wanted to cover here, and that is Reservation Road. So we have 7 films overall to look at next time around. A very packed week of movies. So we'll take a look at all 7 of those coming up on the show tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. With all that said, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to see more videos like this, please go ahead and hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, notification button, and the bell because you get updates on when new videos come out. And we do post new videos here every day. Now, with all that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.